When you work on a team site, a team site can look like anything. And when I say that, right now we have the M400 RFP public group. And underneath it we have documents. Well, this can be something that's on one of your team sites. And when I say one of the things, because documents are just a very small piece of what can be on the team site itself. And in this particular case, we have a non-disclosure agreement that was done on October 7th, and people who are within that group have a chance to take a look at that specific document. Now, it's important to understand that I'm focusing on documents because this module really is all about collaboration, but a team site could have tasks, it can have a calendar, we can have a picture library. I do this for like marketing materials. We can really add anything. You can have what I'll call mini projects if you have a timeline and things that can be tracked. And of course, it can have general info the same way any web page can. So if this was an actual team site dedicated over this RFP and that we create an entire site over that, we might have a structure that has the M400 request for proposal, and we might have a calendar, and maybe that calendar lists dates on documents that need to be submitted by. We might over here have a task list of who does what, and it's going to list each task and who it's assigned to and when it's due by. We could have the document library for people to upload all of the supporting documents for the RFP. And in the middle, we could also have static texts that basically talks about the RFP, why it's important, and what types of things we're focusing on. So this really here is a better example of what a team site is all about, but I really wanted to expand on how simple each one of these elements might be, that I can go to the documents link and see any of the documents that are going to be available for this particular team. I think of team sites as a number of different things. In my company, it's a fairly small company, so I have a team site that's good for every person in the company and anything you need to know if you work for me. Above and beyond that, in a larger company, I'm developing team sites for each department. I have another team site where someone is uploading document libraries so that they have a full document management system by using SharePoint. So the term team really depends on how large your team is. When you're working with the documents list, you'll see that you get a list of documents regardless of the program that they're created within. You've got all different columns, modified by, modified when, you've got the name. Notice here you can find a file. We have a full text search where you just click there and type in what you're looking for. For the documents that we already have, we can start a new one, upload a new one, sync them. You actually can install OneDrive for Business on your local PC so that you can open that folder up and work on documents that are actually up on the SharePoint site. So you want to sync them. We can edit a document that's selected. The reason that's grayed out is we haven't clicked to select one. And of course, we can manage the properties of that. The other piece that I like with documents, probably my favorite piece, is really going back to these columns. So in example, I might create a column, and actually I create this all the time, called document type. And a document type might be Word, Excel, PowerPoint, so it is possible to filter based on that. But a document type for me might be different stages in a proposal. Or maybe it's the document stage. So the stage might be draft, or it might be final. And these are all literally different pieces of information that can be sorted and filtered. So if I decided I only wanted to see draft documents, if I add that column so that it would appear, then just like we see all documents, I could have a menu item that just say drafts, and it's going to filter out only the drafts. You could filter out only documents modified by someone, or document types. For me, it might be slides, or it might be demos. So however it is you need to categorize, think about different columns that'll describe that, and that's where you're really going to get the power of working with documents lists. There are just different elements when you're working on the team sites and the document lists, and I just put them down here for a matter of definition. We have action buttons, which really are based on where you're focused. We have a Files and Library tab. Now, what's interesting about Files and Library, and you'll get a chance to see it in the demo, is if I click on the Files tab, it's what's going to affect the particular files I have selected. But if I click on the Library tab, which is right next to it, I have things that are going to focus on the entire document library, like adding a column to track a new type of data. We have a folders list. You've got your search box that I pointed out. New upload, sync, manage. These are all ones that I had pointed out. You can share files on your team site. So I can grab a folder and share them, and it'll send someone a link. Of course, our headings, these are our column headings. We can select, sort, and most importantly, filter. I use that daily. And then, of course, your open menu. So when you open a document, we get a choice in whether to open it up in the web browser or to open it up in, let's say, Microsoft Word as it's installed on your local PC. But all of these are going to be actions that you can do, and you'll find it's very consistent across all of SharePoint. Group permissions are extremely important to understand. So we have team site visitors. Anyone who's visiting your site has permission to read the content on it. Just like you visiting a public website, if I was to go to msn.com or google.com or Facebook, I have a chance to view what's going on. Now, I don't have an ability to edit someone else's profile, let's say. I don't have an ability to edit what Facebook looks like, but I can visit the site and see what's going on. Now, specific permissions can be given to people that allows them to edit A and not necessarily B, depending on who they are. Well, when you're working with a team site, we do it per site. So team site members can actually edit the website. So we can add documents, edit documents, delete documents, and we've got a few other things that we can do, searching, filtering, etc. And then it's really the team site owners that have full control, which means maybe I'm going to control the appearance of the document library. Maybe I'm going to add that column and create a view. So the team site group's permissions are going to be important. By default, people in your organization are going to be in the visitors. If you want to have someone have the ability to add and upload documents, all you need to do is put their account in the members. And of course, if you want someone to help you manage the SharePoint site, put them right there in the owners. When you edit documents within the web apps, you're going to see that your default is that you can view the document. If you click on Edit, your option is to either edit in the browser, which means right there in the web browser itself, or if Microsoft Office is installed, and that is the prerequisite, locally on your PC, you're going to be able to edit it locally. Now, the reason you would pick locally over browser is, think of the browser as, I like to call it as the common 30. And it's not an exact percentage. I don't actually know what the percentage is, but I would say it's roughly 30% of the most commonly used features you're going to find right there in a web browser. I'm going to be able to open up a document, type a letter, bold, italic, underline, font, maybe insert a picture. And that's pretty basic, but that's really enough to satisfy the majority of the population. Now, if that document is now going to have a table of contents, a table of authorities, an index, really any form of cross-reference. If you're going to do a lot with different styles, not the basic styles, you're going to want to edit it locally, because that's where you're going to get the full features of these programs. The browser-based version does not have every single feature the package has to offer. Again, they really have the stuff that every person uses on every document, and all the more elaborate stuff is actually going to be in the fully installed program. So when you look at Word Online, you're going to see here I'm using Microsoft Edge as a browser. And when I log in, you'll see I've got this item here called Edit Document. So the default when you open up a document on SharePoint is that you're going to view it. Notice here, I'm still online, and I can also tell here. So the default is that I'm viewing. I'm going to click on Edit, but again, notice I have a little pull-down menu. That means am I going to edit online or locally in a copy of Word. If I don't want to edit, I just want a copy of it. Notice I can print it from right here. I can send a link to someone and share it with someone. And of course, I could add some comments. This is telling you who's logged in, so who you're actually logged in by. And you'll see the name of this file is actually company info. That's what it's going to display at right there. And you'll learn when we start using the program how to rename these once we edit them. Excel Online, very similar. So we're viewing an Excel spreadsheet within the web page, logged on as student 1. You'll see I'm on Excel Online. The name of this file is Sales Report. Do I want to edit the workbook here in the browser, or do I want to edit it locally? Again, print, share, and we've got a few links to data. So each program is going to have a lot of consistency from where the name is and the ability to edit or print it, and the ability to share it. And you'll see a couple things will actually change right here depending on the program. PowerPoint Online, same thing. So we can edit our presentation. We can start our slideshow. So if you're just looking to broadcast a slideshow, you don't have to do anything else. Now, that always makes me laugh because I still remember PowerPoint version 1 and beyond. And if I wanted to have a slideshow and I was taking it with me, we had to load it on a disk. We had to load the PowerPoint viewer. Sometimes it was an installer. We had to pack everything. It was actually a pretty big process being able to transport a presentation to use it somewhere else. And now we just log on and we start our slideshow. We can print it to a PDF, which is kind of handy. Again, we can share it with people, and we have our ellipsis for any other menu choices that are PowerPoint specific. If you want to edit something within Word Online, notice here's the document. It looks a little bit different. How we can tell is I now have my ribbon that's available. Remember, it's going to be what I call the common 30%. Don't quote me on the percentage, but here's what people use the most. We type something, we insert a graphic, we use bold, italic, underline, maybe some color. We can use heading styles. Now, there are going to be more styles if you have headings on the local version of Word, but for now, that'll be enough to satisfy doing some of your basic headings. So you'll see here, I've used heading 1, and here I've used heading 2. They match what's going on. You've got your font choices, you've got your paragraph choices, you can insert graphics, but that insert menu is not as robust as the full installed version. You can go ahead and change your page layout. You've got your review and different views. But above and beyond that, if you were to compare this side by side, you'll see that there's a lot of tabs missing. Down at the bottom, you've got your status, page 2 of 2, about how many words, it's done in English, it's recently saved. Now, saving is done automatically. And when I say automatically, it's there is no file save, and you'll see that once we can click on the file menu. And I also want to point out we have something called Open in Word. So that means I'm tired of using this on the web page. Maybe my internet connection's not stable, or maybe I need features that aren't available right here. I can click on Open in Word, and it will open it locally in Word. There are some editing basics for the web apps. Know that the ribbon is going to have your basic tools, but the ribbons are going to have the basic menu options as well that you see in the local versions. File, Home, Insert, Page Layout, Review, and View. You'll find that all of those are going to be pretty common straight across the board. There is no Save menu, so when you click on that File menu and you're looking for Save, don't be freaked out. It's because as you type it, it automatically saves it for you. When you're working with Word Online, PowerPoint Online, Excel Online, we can do a lot of co-authoring. Co-authoring is defined as having multiple users editing the file, basically being the same document at any given time. We're also going to see that we have our co-authoring that's happening at the same time, which means I could be working on a document and you could be working on the exact same document. Now, you think how that is possible. It's possible because the document's on a web page, and you're going to see little pop-ups that says Sandra's modifying slide 10. I'm going to see a pop-up that might say Lisa's modifying slide 15. So you'll know where the other person is. Now, if you don't want to co-author, or you don't want to co-author at the same time, you want to make sure that you have exclusive rights of that document and no one else can edit it while you're editing it. What you want to do is use the check out command. And that means you're going to have complete control over the document until you check it back in, which basically allows the documents to be edited by other users. We also have a feature called versioning that can be turned on the online versions. And it's not on by default, and that's why I say you can turn this on, but it does allow you to manage multiple versions of documents, which is fantastic, especially if more than one person is editing. You can go back to different versions and see where the changes are. My site is a personal website so that when you're collaborating with people, they can look up who you are and see who you are. Now, in a smaller organization, let's say you have 5 or 10 people that work with you, my site might not be as important. Maybe you'll put a profile picture, but people aren't wondering who you are because you're all in a small office together. We know who the other person is. But if you're working with someone who has 100 employees or 1,000 employees, that's going to be a lot more important, because as you look at collaboration, you're going to want to know who you're working with, and who you're working with might not even be on the same coast as you. I'm on the East Coast. Someone I collaborate with might be on the West Coast. So this is where you start filling out my site. Your profile should, of course, be a professional picture that you want organization-wide people to see, and maybe your name, your department, your extension right there in the office. Maybe you want a little blurb there, you know, activities include hiking and camping in Maine, an example. So that's what we mean by personal information, but you know, don't think of this as a Facebook, because it really is more for business. Now, we do have a news feed, and the news feed allows you to enable conversation with others and the ability to follow documents and trending tags. So really, you can think of this as a mini Yammer, or maybe you want to say a mini, I'll call it Facebook for business, because I can have on my news feed currently working on and I could talk about a project that I'm currently working on. Now, that's not like, you know, I'm sitting here or I'm checking in at the mall, but current working on, if you're using this professionally, means I can say I'm currently working on an Office 365 course, and I'm looking for any comments of what people would like to see in that course. And now we have a conversation that can be started, and people can follow that conversation. So the news feed allows you to really start connecting, especially if you have a lot of people in your organization that you don't necessarily get to see on a daily basis. And of course, you have OneDrive. This is cloud-based storage for personal documents. So if you were to log onto a computer outside of Office 365, you know you've got this folder called My Documents, and that's where you keep just your stuff. Not the stuff that's public, but the stuff that you're personally working on. That's what OneDrive is all about. So here's an example of a sample news feed. Notice here we can share something with everyone, but that is a menu, so you can choose your audience. And here you can put your status for the day. Again, this is really more intended for a professional news feed and projects and collaborations that you're working on. Now, if there's a document that you're following, let's say that you're working on a presentation, or in my case, I'm working on writing a course for Office 365, someone might want to follow that. It might be someone I'm working with or someone who's just interested in the content. So you can follow things. So notice here, I can see in the feed that student 1 is now following agenttotals.com XLSX, meaning an Excel spreadsheet. So the newsfeed is going to be intentioned for not only a status, but it's also going to start tracking some of the things that you're working in and if people are following items that you're working on. So here we're focusing on who's following what. Here we can look at everyone and look at a general news feed. Here maybe someone has done some mentions of you. So we have an opportunity to really see collaboration-based information. Now in the news feed, notice here we have news feed, we have about me. This is really what we call the quote-unquote my site. Here's a chance for you to create your own blog for people to follow, and of course accessible to apps that you can use. As you follow things, which means you get to click on the star and say following, you will see who you're following, how many documents you're following, how many SharePoint sites you're following, and these are all links. So I can click right through to see those documents. And of course, what's life nowadays without tags? So if there's trending tags, they've been pretty quiet, but if there's tags that people are following, hashtag Office365, as people follow it, it'll start telling you that that's become a popular topic. Delve is relatively new to Office 365, and if you're collaborating with people, it's absolutely wonderful. What you're going to see here is under people, I only have student 01, which is supposed to be me, and Peter Lammers. Now, this isn't going to list every person in your organization. It lists people that you're collaborating with. Let's say that I decide that I am going to collaborate with Mark, and I share a document with Mark and he modifies that document, so we're working on something together. He will automatically appear right here under people, and I'll be able to click specifically on Mark Jones and find out exactly what he's working with that I have access. It's all permissions based. If you don't have access, you're not going to see it. So you're going to see here my work. Think of these as like recent files. So if you've recently worked on something, you could go to Delve and kind of reopen it or re-access it. But you can also see everything that you're working on with someone. So if I decided that, hey, I wanted to see everything I'm working on with Peter, I simply click on Peter's name and I get to see what he's working on that I have access to. So it really is starting to replace the shared drive on a file server. We used to have a folder the administrator would set up for us, and we could all access that folder and open and close documents, but it didn't give us a lot of background information on who was creating what, who was working on what, who modified what, and here it's trying to bring that all together. On Delve, of course, we have our Home tab. We can look specifically my work, or if people are sharing things with me on SharePoint sites, I can click here to see links. So again, Delve is all about delving into your work and being able to find some of these documents. If you log on to your OneDrive, remember OneDrive is essentially an online replacement of My Documents. The OneDrive page allows you to look at your documents specifically on OneDrive, recently opened. We have shared with me when people send you links, what you're following, different folders on the site, and of course, if you've deleted something, a way to bring it back out of the recycling bin. You're also going to see that on all of these tabs, you have a file and a library tab. So a files tab means I have clicked here next to the My Photo Journal, and I can access files, and it's going to give me everything I can do to selected files. It might be open, edit, or any one of those things, check in, check out, but that's what the files tab is all about. If I am permission-based, and I have site owner permission, which I would on my own OneDrive, I actually can modify my library. So because it's my own document library, I might want to add a column called document type, or I might want document function. This is just personally how I think. I actually created a document library and it was intended customers. So we were creating files for customers. So the doc type was actually the customer type. So it could define the customer, it could define who they were, what type they were. It was an insurance organization. So their document type fell along the lines of commercial or residential. It was commercial auto or residential auto. And they were able to assign those document types and filter and sort based on those document types. So it's all about really how you want to customize it. You can add any column you want, call it anything you want, as long as it works for your document library purpose.